Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking out another video. I want to start the video off by giving a big thank you to Import Image Racing for supporting the channel and sending me out this ETS intake to install for you guys. So I'm really excited. I'll walk you through the process, show you what it's like to install this. We'll get some sound clips, talk about it a little bit, go over some concerns you may have and some questions you may have. It should be pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and dive in. I wanted to quickly show you one of the changes that was made to the ETS intake. So originally, the ETS intake, the piping was shaped just a little bit differently, and you had a 45-degree bend coupler. Now you're going to get two straight couplers with your intake, and the pipe is bent more straight upwards. So you don't have to worry about the orientation of your coupler. You're just going to put this coupler onto the turbo inlet, and then this is just going to go straight up, and we're going to have a provided bolt that's going to hold this down to the frame. So it has been revised since this intake first came out. So some of the install videos that you see might not be up to date. So I just want to let you know that. And then we'll look into one other difference when we go to install the filter. So this should be a pretty straightforward install. We're going to start by popping the hood and grab yourself a flathead or some kind of trim removal tool. So you'll see these two pop clips up front. We're just going to start by popping those up and removing those. After you have those taken out, we can just grab onto this whole air duct and pull it right out of the vehicle. So I did end up deciding to pull the car inside. It was a little loud out there, lots of traffic today, but we're gonna remove this 10mm nut from the intake box. So a fair warning, a shallow socket might not be deep enough, and then a deep socket might be too deep to where you can't get your ratchet in there. So I'm gonna try and use this wrench here. Hopefully this will work out. Okay, we got it loose. Just gonna remove that. While we're up here, we can unplug the MAF sensor, and then there should be a little clip holding the MAF sensor wire to the intake box. We can just use a flathead screwdriver and pop that out. And then we can use a flathead screwdriver to remove this clamp. And then on the right side of the intake box here, you're gonna see two 10mm bolts that need removed. Go ahead and grab all of your favorite extensions and zap that sucker out of there. Go to the one on the back, same thing. So now we should be able to grab our intake box and just pull it out of the vehicle. On the underside, there's not really a whole lot that needs done. We are just going to be removing a bunch of pop clips so that we can pull the under tray out a little bit so we can get to everything we need to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and start pulling these clips out. I'm not gonna bring the camera under here with me because I feel like it'd kind of be confusing for you guys if I'm just moving the camera underneath the car showing you, oh, this one, this one, this one. So just kind of follow around where I'm going and keep your eye out for these plastic clips, and that's all we're gonna have to do is remove them. We are going to have a bolt, it looks like. We're gonna have two 12mm bolts here. So there's one more clip up in the wheel well that you'll see. It's behind the tire, it's up in the wheel well a little bit. And then another one right here connecting it to the splash guard. And one more back here, two more back here. So just look around the whole tray for plastic clips. All right, there we go. I'm gonna switch over to my 10mm and drop this bolt. And there we go. We have access to everything we need to get to. So underneath the splash guard in front of the wheel, you're gonna see this 10mm nut. We're gonna go ahead and zap that sucker off. And then in here, connected to the turbo inlet, you'll see one more clamp that we have to remove that's holding this intake onto the turbo inlet. So we'll just loosen that puppy up. Maybe a little tricky to get in there. I'm gonna switch over to an 8mm socket. So if you guys have trouble getting in there with a flathead, you can use an 8mm socket. Now we should be able to just pull this off of the inlet. Might have to grab and twist it a little bit. Oh. And this whole intake should come out. So there you can see the hole where our intake was. And right here is all the piping for it. So a little tip for you, I found that installing the coupler like so, and then trying to get one of the clamps over the coupler and onto the turbo inlet can be kind of difficult. You just kind of have to really push it. So if you want to, you can take one of the clamps and slide it on like that. I have that facing the wrong way that I want it. And then we will take our coupler and slide our coupler on like that, and then we will put the clamp on to the coupler. That should make it a little bit easier for you. So next we can grab our intake pipe and another clamp. We will put the clamp on there like so, and then we will slide our intake pipe into the coupler. Don't tighten that down yet. So now with your intake loose in the coupler, you'll be able to see that pre-threaded hole in the frame. Locate a 12mm bolt that is included and just make sure that that's the right one and that it will thread into that location, just like so. Then we can back this out and we can line up our intake piping, line up the hole, and put the 12mm bolt through the hole in the frame. All right, once you have that nice and tight, we can go back underneath and tighten down our clamp. Okay, so at this point we can reinstall all of our splash guards. Okay, so here is our factory intake with our MAF sensor. We are going to have to remove the MAF sensor from our intake box so that we can reinstall this into the ETS intake. So just carefully take these screws out. They're a little finicky. Make sure that you don't strip them out. And carefully pull the MAF sensor out. And then we can grab our new MAF housing. And this is where things get a little bit different. So this is the traditional MAF housing that would come with the ETS intake, but there's something a little bit different about this one. And that is that this one is the updated version, which comes with the sleeve. So ETS provides this sleeve here because the original intake, I think people were having problems with dam drop. So on the factory tune, after installing the intake, people were having those issues, and ETS believed the cause to be that the diameter of their MAF housing was larger than factory, which is great for airflow, bad for MAF readings on a stock tune. So they provided this sleeve, which is supposed to alleviate that issue and make it safer to run on a factory tune. Now ETS says that this intake is safe to run on a factory tune, which I'm sure there's going to be arguments in the comments if it's safe or not. I'm going to run it on a stock tune with this sleeve, and I should be fine. I'm going to take a gamble on it. I do plan on getting a Pro Tune, hopefully within the next 2 or 3 months. And so if I do that, then it's not a big deal. So I'm going to run the intake on the stock car. I'll be your guinea pig. I'll let you know how it works out. Now it did come with this rubber gasket, and I'm not too sure what this rubber gasket is for. I thought maybe it was for this adapter. So let me see if it is. Let me see if it's supposed to recess. Okay, so yeah, it looks like that's what it's for. It goes onto that adapter. So we'll slide this adapter down in, and that rubber seal is going to make that a nice seal. If I can manage to push this down all the way to get that seal to actually seal in place. So that was a little difficult, but I'm glad that I got it in there now. But now we are going to unthread the screws on the MAF plate. And then we can install our MAF sensor. Make sure that the arrow is pointing the correct way. You want the flow facing towards the car or towards the turbo. Press that down, make sure that it's sealed properly, and then you can reinstall the supplied Phillips head screws. All right, so I slid our hose clamp down on there. I'm going to plug the MAF in, and that way I can make sure I orient this in a way where the sensor is going to have enough room with the cable. All right, so then before we install the filter, I'm going to remove this 10mm bolt so that we can install the bracket for the box. So we'll just remove that, install this bracket, and tighten it down. Then we will install our filter and just sit this down, make sure it feels even all the way around the bottom lip. That's what I'm looking for here. I just want to make sure that it's even all the way around. So as long as it all feels even and it all looks good, we can tighten down our clamp. All right, so then we're going to install our intake box. We're just going to slide this down over the intake. And then we're just going to push the intake box over this way so that we can line up the holes and install this bolt. Then we're going to come to the front side here and install one of our provided 10mm bolts into this bracket. All right, so I wanted to show you guys this real quick. I have the intake box in, and I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but that bolt down there on the side I have in place and tightened down, and then the bolt here in the front I have in place and tightened down. However, because of the catch can, this back one did not want to line up, and I actually cross-threaded the bolt trying to get it in there. So what I had to do was take the bracket out. I actually drilled the bracket out and got rid of the threads, reinstalled it, tightened it down, and then I tried to bend it basically by, I took like a Phillips head screwdriver and put it down through the hole and put it down through the bracket and just kind of pried, and it bent the bracket enough. And then I put this black plastic clip down through the hole that I drilled. So it's nice and secure now. This thing is not going anywhere. So as long as the ducting all matches up, and again, this is only because of my Radium catch cans. Now I want to show you guys how it is touching. You can see there that it's literally touching the intake box. So what you could do is trim down this bracket where the catch can is basically this little ring that goes around the catch can. You can trim that down, or you could cut a little slot into the intake box. I would much rather cut a little slot into the intake box for this to go into, but my Dremel is out of commission right now. So had I had the Dremel, I could have cut a little slice into the box basically for this part of the bracket, just a little bit of it to go into the intake box. It'd be perfectly fine, but I wasn't able to do that. So it does interfere with the Radium catch cans, unfortunately, but it's not the end of the world. I still got it in. All right, sorry, it's probably pretty bright there, but as long as this intake duct goes down in here and it fits in properly and we're able to line this up, I am not worried about it. So it is a little bit off still. It's still pushed forward just a little bit. It's looking like this hole here isn't lining up because it almost needs to push back to where that can is. If I force it and push it back, I could get that clip in there, but it's just not sitting right. So I will have to modify this box to fit my catch cans. But again, if you don't have the catch cans, you won't have this issue. All I'm gonna do is, for right now, I'm just gonna put this one clip in over here and call it a day. And then I'll have to come back and I'll have to modify my intake box. I'll make a little video whenever I do that to show you how I got it to fit. I'll start getting you some sound clips. Well guys, that's going to be it for the install. As I said, I am planning on running this on the stock tune for a little while. I do want to get a Pro Tune, which honestly, if you're doing an intake, I would still recommend it, even if they say no tune required. I don't plan on running this very long without a tune, and I'm gonna be a little bit more careful with the car now with this on. But other than that, it was a pretty simple install. It didn't take too long except me trying to modify that box, and it sounds great. It really does. It sounds great, and it's gonna add power. So tuners are making serious power with these cars with the intake and the J-pipe and a tune. It's just crazy. So it is something that you might want if you're going the power route, or you just want a little bit of extra sound when you do your tune. Definitely add some extra sound. So that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. I appreciate you watching. I'll leave a link in the description where you can find this from Import Image Racing. So check out the description if you wanna get an ETS intake for your car. I'll see you guys in the next video.